I asked Chat GPT how to make an authentic beef fried rice, just like from a Chinese restaurant. I wanted to know if Chat's recipe is as good as my family's restaurant recipe. We all know that fried rice is one of the most ordered items in restaurants across the country. Let's see if Chat gets it right. First, Chat says we have to velvet our meat. So we're gonna take some sliced beef, which I'm gonna use strip loin today, but you can also use a flank steak. Then add some cornstarch, some oil, soy sauce, and Shaoxing cooking wine. You want to mix that all together, and you'll want to let that sit for about 15 minutes. The next step that Chat says is to cook your beef. You'll want to heat up your wok really hot and then add some oil. Once your oil is hot, add in your beef. You'll want to cook your beef for only about 1 minute, and then you're going to set it aside. All right, now it's time to cook our rice. Chat doesn't say what temperature to cook this at, so I'm going to cook it at medium heat. I'm going to heat up my wok a little bit, add some oil, and then add the garlic. Chat says to stir your garlic for 5 seconds and then put in your egg. So now that the egg is firm, I'm going to add a little bit more oil, add our green onions. Then our rice. Chat says to use day-old rice. And there is a reason for that. Day-old rice, as it's refrigerated, dries out some of the moisture, and that helps you get a nice fry when it's in your wok. A nice toasty flavor. Now Chat says to beat down your rice a little bit in your wok so that it toasts nicely and gets that wok hay. Now I'm going to add a little bit of salt. It says just a pinch of salt and some sugar. I'm going to stir that around a little bit, and I'm going to add back my beef. Now, my beef was not cooked all the way when we pre-cooked it before, so this is going to help cook the beef the rest of the way. Chat also says to season this with white pepper. Typically, when we cook fried rice restaurant style, we don't do that patting part down, but I think Chat's telling you to do this at home, and it wants you to push down a little bit so that you get a nicer sear, so you get that wok flavor. Now to finish, it says to take a little bit of soy sauce and drizzle it along the edge. We'll do that now. Not sure why they said to do it along the edge, because what ends up happening sometimes is that soy sauce will stick to the pan instead of the rice. Finally, Chat says to put a little bit of sesame oil, drizzle it right on the top right before serving. I'm gonna turn off my heat. Give this a couple more stirs. And it looks like it's ready to plate. When we asked Chat how to make a classic restaurant fried rice, it gave us this exact recipe. In my family recipe, we don't use sugar in our fried rice. We also use different veggies, adding bean sprouts to add a little crunch to our fried rice. And also when we're cooking the fried rice, we don't use a wok spoon to pat the rice down to give it that more toasty flavor. So having made this version of the fried rice, it's very visually appealing, but I'm imagining that it's gonna have a little bit more caramel flavor because that sugar, when it's in the wok, will caramelize and add to that flavor of the rice. It won't have that crunch that I would expect from a restaurant fried rice. And thirdly, I would imagine that it does have a nice toasted flavor. It's just that when we make fried rice in a restaurant, we're constantly tossing the rice without having to pat it down like that to get that same toasty flavor. So now let's taste test and see if Chat can really make an authentic fried rice recipe. All right, I'm going for it. It's pretty good. It's actually saltier than I thought it would be because of that light soy sauce. Light soy sauce has a saltier flavor than a dark soy sauce would. I'm gonna try the beef too. The beef tastes a little bit saltier and it's also a little chewier than when we normally velvet our beef. I'll add a little bit of water to the soy sauce when we marinate our beef, just because it's not such a high concentration of that soy sauce when we're marinating. The texture of the beef is way chewier than when I velvet, and a little bit of water added to the marinade will help with that. Overall, Chat's version is a good version of fried rice, but if you're really craving that Chinese restaurant fried rice, go to your favorite Chinese restaurant. I probably won't make Chat's version again. That's because I much prefer my family's decades-old recipe. So there we have another Chat recipe that just doesn't cut it. Leave a comment down below and let me know which Chat recipe you'd like me to try next. If you'd like to make fried rice the way my family makes it, click right here.